Big story of the NBA. The contract of Warriors forward Jonathan Kuminga allows him to be traded starting today, and sources tell ESPN that's exactly what he wants. The sides have had contentious contract talks in the offseason before he signed with the Warriors. Brian Windhorst with his thoughts earlier on NBA Today.
What are we doing here? If he had had an offer last summer from another team, he would have signed an offer sheet. He didn't have an offer sheet. A pox on both of their houses. I've had enough of this. This is not a significant thing. Just move on. I can't take it anymore. We've seen Anthony Slater go through 4 seasons in his backyard talking about this story, about a guy who is not a significant. Shams and Slater reported 2 weeks ago he had a chance to play, and he said, I got a back injury.
I'm going to be Mr. Positivity to this sauce.
Wendy now joins us live. So, Wendy, let's talk about the future of John. Nah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to.
I took off my tie, and I'm going to maintain my composure. Okay, I'm going to maintain my composure.
That's completely covered here. Trust me. All right, let's turn to John Morant. He didn't play in Berlin today in an afternoon game. What's the market look like for the Grizzlies star?
Yeah, so there are teams interested in John Morant, but they're interested in him as a distressed asset because they realize he's not having a good season and he's dealt with, off-court challenges. And the Grizzlies are just not going to be able to get top dollar here. And so really what this is going to come down to is, will the Grizzlies be willing to part with John Morant if they do not get a strong package? Will they be able to do it just to get off the $87 million he's owed the next 2 years? Because, Memphis obviously wants to pivot here. I definitely think there are teams who believe that they can get more out of John Morant, but they're just not going to make a premium offer right now. So I think there's a reasonable chance John Morant is going to be elsewhere in a few weeks, but I don't think it's going to be because this packages coming in are going to create a bidding war.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. As the trade deadline approaches, what else should we be watching here in February?
I'll tell you one thing, as I talk to league executives, they all say the exact same thing. The most aggressive buyer on the market are the Milwaukee Bucks. For so much has been, surrounding Giannis, but this is not really involving Giannis on the market. This involves the Bucks trying to cobble together some assets to improve their team. Milwaukee has been a strong team when Giannis has been on the court this year, but when he has gone off the court either to rest or he's missed games because of that calf injury, they have gone down. And so they are not giving up. They still believe that they can cobble together some pieces. They have very limited draft assets. They have a couple of guys on their roster who have some value. I would expect we hear from the Bucks between now and February 5th, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be involving Giannis. I think it's going to be trying to get someone to help him. Okay. According to DraftKings Sportsbook, the Bucks are a plus 300 to make it to the postseason. Wendy, again, you're off the clock. No more Kuminga questions. I promise. Thank you very much.
Golden State, according to ESPN, it took almost the entire offseason for Kuminga and the Warriors to agree to a 2-year deal as a restricted free agent. Today is the first day he can be traded under the terms of that deal, and it looks like he wants out. His relationship with Steve Kerr has reportedly soured. Don't need to read too far into that. Just look at the box scores. He hasn't played in 13 games. Let's bring in our NBA analyst, John Gonzalez, for more. John, is there much value on the trade market for Kuminga, and what teams do you think he could add value to?
Yeah, good question. This has been simmering for a while, right, Chris? I mean, as you mentioned, the contract negotiation didn't go well during the offseason. It was really contentious. They finally signed him to a 2-year deal. But Jonathan Kuminga has been sort of going towards wanting out for a while now, and it looks like the Warriors are finally going to get around to it. So which teams might be good fits? Well, whenever somebody like Jonathan Kuminga pops up, you're going to hear the Sacramento Kings. They were evidently trying to land him during this offseason. They dangled Malik Monk. That didn't work out. Maybe they up the offer a little bit here. Maybe there could be something creative like a Domantas Sabonis, Keon Ellis, maybe a Precious Achiuwa package in exchange for Kuminga Moody, maybe a Buddy Hield. If the Warriors aren't looking to do something that big, maybe the Mavs could be interested. Anthony Davis is hurt. He's got a hand issue. He could be out at least 6 weeks. They're still waiting for Kyrie Irving to come back from an ACL. Cooper Flagg needs somebody his own age to run with here, Chris. Kuminga's only 23. That could make some sense. Maybe a swap where you send Daniel Gafford to the Warriors, along with maybe Klay Thompson, a reunion there. And the one I really like, Chris, I'll throw one more at you here. The Brooklyn Nets. Michael Porter Jr. is having a career year. He would fit perfectly with the Golden State Warriors alongside Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler. Two of those three guys aren't great shooters. Well, Michael Porter Jr. can shoot, so it wouldn't be a spacing problem from the Warriors' perspective. And then from the Nets' perspective, you get a young player who has another year on a team option for next season where he could be the main guy, the lead scorer. I think that'd be a really good fit for both teams, Brooklyn and Golden State.
We saw the list put together by our NBA writer Sam Quinn, and the Lakers were on that list. I didn't hear you mention the Lakers. Is it feasible? Would it be worth the Lakers trying to add him to the fold?
Feasible, yes. Worth it? That's the question, right? Because, look, the Lakers, I don't think that they're nearly as good as the top four teams in the Western Conference. They're currently sitting fifth. Now, they've got Luka Doncic, they've got Austin Reeves, who they're going to want to bring back this offseason, and, of course, LeBron James, who we'll see whether or not he wants to play anymore after the season, and if he does, is it going to be in Los Angeles? But they've always been building towards sort of clearing the decks, not just this offseason, but the following offseason, when they could have max money and really sort of rebuild this whole thing on the fly around Luka. So would they want to go and kick the tires on Jonathan Kuminga? They wouldn't tie them down because, as I said, he's got what he's owed this year plus a team option next year around $24 million. So if they decided they didn't like Jonathan Kuminga, they could get off of him. Now, what would they have to give up for him? Probably like Rui Hachimura and Dalton Knecht, which is no great shakes because they tried to trade Dalton Knecht last year anyway, and he's already fallen out of J.J. Redick's rotation, so I don't think that they'd be really broken up about that. And with Rui Hachimura, the ceiling is pretty low for the Lakers, so it's a situation where they might just go, yeah, let's take a shot and see what we get out of this. But even if they did that, Chris, I don't think it's a real needle mover for them. The West is absolutely loaded, and I don't think Jonathan Kuminga puts them over the top.
Do you believe he gets moved before the deadline on February 5th?
Absolutely. This thing has to end for both sides. He's wanted out for a while. The Warriors have decided they're just not going to play him. He's only 23 years old. He needs to go somewhere and play. It's time for him to move on for sure.
All right, we're moving on as well here on HQ. John Gonzalez with us as Jonathan Kuminga. His trade window has opened, and he is saying, I want to play. Because it looks as though this will be the 14th straight game tonight that he is not going to see the court as the Warriors host the Knicks. A note in that game. Warriors favored by 7. Jalen Brunson is out, continues to be day-to-day with a right ankle sprain. That game 10 Eastern in San Francisco. Play, because it looks as though this will be the 14th straight game tonight that he is not going to see the court as the Warriors host the Knicks. A note in that game. Warriors favored by 7. Jalen Brunson is out, continues to be day-to-day with a right ankle sprain. That game 10 Eastern in San Francisco.
After getting a second opinion, and he will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. Earlier Tuesday on ESPN, they reported that AD would likely require surgery and miss a few months. However, teams are reportedly still interested in Davis in the trade market. Davis, of course, pushed back, tweeting, quote, "Y'all better stop listening to these lies on these apps," end quote. The trade deadline, I know it, is coming up on February 5th. All right, let's bring in Sam Quinn and John Gonzalez. Good to see the two of you fellas. His agent, Rich Paul, is pushing Dallas to move Anthony Davis before the deadline. Dallas says they're not going to be bullied, and AD is now sidelined with that wrist injury. So, John, what is your first reaction to this news?
Yeah, Anthony Davis was heated, Katie. Lies, he said. Lies with an exclamation point. You know, he's never been healthier, right? Sam just wrote about this, actually, and I'm sort of LOLing at Anthony Davis taking umbrage with somebody saying that he might need season-ending surgery because he's had hundreds, literally hundreds of injuries in his career. If you look at just the injuries he's had this season, it comes out, you have to unspool it like the Dead Sea Scrolls. It would roll across the floor. I mean, he'll be 33 in March, right? He's only played 20 games this season. In his time with the Mavericks, he's only played 29 out of a possible 73 total games for the Mavericks. He only played 51 combined games last season. Now we have this thing in the NBA where you need to reach a 65 game threshold to be eligible for postseason awards or for regular season awards, right? Well, he's only cleared that bar one time in the last 8 seasons. So I understand that he wasn't thrilled with the reporting here, but I guess the media should be forgiven that they got out ahead of this because he's Anthony Davis and he's constantly hurt.
Yeah, when you said he's never been healthier, I thought in my head, healthy? What is healthy when we look at AD? Let's talk about real leverage here. Davis is hurt. Dallas is 12th, 11th or 12th or so in the West. And he's staring at a massive contract extension window this summer. So, Sam, based on everything that we do know, how likely is it that AD actually gets traded before February 5th?
Well, how badly does he want that contract extension, right? Is that why Rich Paul is pushing for this? Because I don't think it would be responsible for anybody to extend Anthony Davis right now. His current contract goes through his age 34 season. Are you paying him when he's 35, 36? That seems really irresponsible given that injury history that John laid out, already making supermax money right now. If there is a team out there that is willing to give him an extension, I'm willing to bet that Rich Paul will do everything in his power to make that trade happen. I don't know that a trade exists, which makes this sort of complicated, right? I don't know what his trade value is in a world in which we don't know when he's coming back this year, and we don't know what to expect from him moving forward because we never know what to expect from him. I think if Rich Paul had his way, the Mavericks would just trade him to whoever would take him, right? Like, is there a cap dump trade out there? Is there something like the Trae Young trade that Atlanta made with Washington? Since there isn't one out there right now, I'll put it around 50-50. Somebody would have to give up value to convince Dallas to get off of him, because even though he might not play again this year, the Mavericks could bring him back next year with Kyrie Irving and say, you know what, we'll get a high draft pick this year. You're going to be out. We can tank in peace. Then bring back Kyrie and AD and try to win next year. So that's the leverage for Dallas. It's not about, oh, can we generate a bidding war? It's, can anybody give us an offer that makes us believe, yeah, this makes more sense than just keeping him and trying again in a year? I think it's around 50-50, could go either way.
Yeah, I'm with Sam here. I mean, like, it's hard for me to imagine a deal where somebody goes, oh, you know what I would like? 33 in March, Anthony Davis, who's constantly hurt and never available. And, oh, by the way, we have to pay him $54 million this season, $58 million next season. And he's got a player option on the back end for $62 million. Yeah, Rich Paul, of course he's pushing hard for a trade because he wants that next deal, because he knows, like we all know, that Anthony Davis is only intermittently available, so they'd rather get money on the front end. Now, if you Sam was talking about, okay, maybe there's a cap dump situation out there. Atlanta has been one of those teams that's been linked to being interested in Anthony Davis. Maybe the Mavs go and trade for, say, expiring contracts like Kristaps Porzingis and Luke Kennard. You could get something like $42 million in expiring contracts off of that. Beyond that, I can't see why anybody would be eager and running towards the Mavericks and saying, yes, 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 please, we'll take Anthony Davis off of your hand, given his long injury history, his age, and that odious contract.
Well, when you say it like that, John, I don't know either, but let's take a deeper dive into it. We have heard names like the Hawks, the Raptors, Bucks, even the Warriors, plus some wild Charlotte and Clippers ideas that I have seen. But, John, when you look at the fit, right, and the contracts and the timelines, which landing spot actually makes the most basketball sense, both for AD and Dallas?
Yeah, you mentioned the Hornets. I'll let Sam go with that one. That's his pet project there, and it's kind of interesting too. We've mentioned again, Atlanta is one of those situations where he's been tied to going to the Hawks. We just saw what happened with Trae Young. There was basically no trade market for him, and they had to swap him out for C.J. McCollum and Corey Crispert. I don't think it's quite that bad for Anthony Davis, but I do think that it would take some maneuvering here. Maybe it is, as I mentioned, just expiring contracts like Kristaps Porzingis and Luke Kennard, where all of a sudden the Mavs want to try to duck the tax, and they'd be happy to do that. Maybe it's a situation like the Brooklyn Nets. They have their pick this year, but they owe it to Houston next year, so they don't have any real incentive to tank next season, so maybe they take a flyer on them. I'm not sure why they would. Can I interest anybody in a Pelicans reunion? Do you want to do maybe a swap with Zion Williamson? The whole point here, Katie, and I think Sam would probably be in agreement with me here, is I hate all of these options, and I don't want, if I'm another team, any part of Anthony Davis.
Yeah, the only fit I really like is the Charlotte Hornets. I know it's out there. I know it's from left field. Just hear me out. The Hornets have Dallas's 2027 first-round pick. That makes them ideal trade partners. There are no more valuable first-round picks than your own. They're the only ones that you can control. Since the beginning of December, Charlotte has had a top-5 offense with LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, Brandon Miller. They have an offensive core they can build around moving forward. What they need is size and defense. That sounds a lot like Anthony Davis. They're obviously cheaper long-term. Con Knipple still has 3 years left on his rookie deal. If there is a team out there that is equipped to extend Anthony Davis, even though I wouldn't advise it, the Hornets would be among those teams. I think they're the one team out there that could look at this and say, it's a low enough risk move for us and a high enough reward that we could justify it. Does Toronto make some sense? Sure. They do need the talent upgrade, whether it's Ja Morant or Anthony Davis. We think they're going to swing for somebody because right now their ceiling just isn't high enough to justify the payroll. I've thrown out the Clippers as well, just because the Clippers have all of these expiring contracts. They could get Dallas off of the contract scot-free, and obviously they're trying to win now. They're trying to be a buyer at the deadline. because Kawhi Leonard and James Harden are in their mid-30s. Like, what else are you going to do? So there are other teams out there that maybe under the right circumstances could make sense. Charlotte is the team I have fallen in love with. There's been no real reporting. There's no substance of that. I just think it's a great fit.
So John wants nothing to do with AD at the trade deadline, and Sam's got a very interesting trade cooked up with the Charlotte Hornets. Although I will say, as a 49ers, a Warriors both fan, seeing Klay Thompson go to Charlotte would actually hurt my heart. John Gonzalez, Sam Quinn, thank you for joining us. Here are the odds to win the NBA Finals in the shortest odds, according to our friends over at FanDuel. How about those Thunder going back-to-back, price at +110, followed by the Nuggets, the Spurs,